you're just going to cry every day. Well, it's so funny. I was just talking to one of my coworkers. I'm like, the first 2 years, you're going to cry every day because you just feel like, oh my God, there's so much more I could be doing. You have to recognize there's a reason you're in that role. That didn't happen by chance. You had to work really hard to prove that you deserve to be in that arena. So you shouldn't feel like you don't belong.
How would you define your leadership style or your belief?
I like to lead from the front. I would never ask people to do something I wouldn't do. So if I won't do it, why would I ask you to do that?
Growing up around her father's Tejano radio station in San Antonio, Maddie Patrick watched music bring communities together and families through their hardest times. What started as a summer job cleaning apartments at 15 became a 23-year journey through every level of multifamily. In all those years, she's learned that this business is deeply intimate, meeting residents during divorces, foreclosures, and life's biggest transitions. Now, as a regional manager with dreams of starting her own company, Maddie leads with the understanding that behind every great property is a team that deserves to be supported just as much as the residents they serve.
When you look back on the last few decades of your career, what stands out as some of the hard moments?
Some of the harder moments have been working in affordable housing because a lot of my career was multifamily lease-ups and all the things and super expensive, and then shifting from that, becoming a regional manager and working with people who, especially coming out of COVID, 2021, 2022, are struggling to pay, $500 in rent and trying to figure out how to come up with that and facing eviction. And I think that was extremely hard to see how people were having to choose how to go without. That was some of the harder, more challenging things I've seen. And then seeing people kind of mental illness that we're seeing, a little bit of a spike in that the last few years has been difficult.
When you think about your early years in your career, if you were to go back, what would you tell yourself?
That's a tough one, Shiv. I'd say
property managers lose hours chasing rent, while delinquency and filing costs add up to massive losses. The financial impact? Millions in unpaid rent sold to collections agencies that recover just 20 to 30%, while taking a huge cut. Now, the Kelsey you trust for leasing helps you recover more rent in-house, reducing reliance on agencies and maximizing revenue. With Collections AI, Kelsey automates rent and move-out collections, from the first missed payment to move-out, while ensuring compliance across jurisdictions. Easily train and set up Kelsey on your company's collections process, including CARES and state-regulated workflows. She doesn't just set reminders. Kelsey answers resident questions, tracks promise to pay dates, and follows up persistently to keep payments on track. Need oversight? Corporate teams can monitor collections in real time with Zuma's dashboard, while site teams use the Chrome Assistant to track payments and even respond as Kelsey when needed. Kelsey also evaluates resident risk with AI, providing instant insights to help you make smarter renewal decisions. The impact? Doubles collections velocity, reduces filings, cuts site team workload by 85%. Stop leaving rent revenue on the table. Let Zuma's Collections AI handle the heavy lifting while you focus on what matters. Get started today.
Maddie, welcome to the show.
thank you for having me.
I'm excited. I'm glad our mutual friend Tony Sousa introduced us.
Buddy.
Our buddy, yeah. Mm-hmm. I hit him up and I was like, who should I meet in San Antonio? And he's like, I'll send you this list by end of day. And
Yes.
you were on the list, so I'm really excited to chat with you.
Honored. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. Okay. I want to start with a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Maybe, where you grew up, and we can go from there.
Absolutely. I'm born and raised in San Antonio. I've lived in Austin, lived in Dallas very briefly, but San Antonio has always been home. My family's here. Actually, oddly enough, my father's side of the family was in the radio and entertainment business. They had a Tejano station here in San Antonio and one in Corpus. So I was around music. My dad was always doing concerts and fundraisers and things like that for people where if you had a relative die and they couldn't cover funeral expenses, he would throw a concert to help raise money for that. And he would bring local talent that maybe they were trying to make it big, or he would have talent that maybe wasn't as big yet. People like Selena, Flaco Jimenez, people like that are more locally, regionally famous. He would bring them out and they were just big drivers. So I grew up a lot around that, sleeping in my dad's Bronco while he was working the show and getting everything done. So a lot of fun. And then my mom worked too, so we would kind of work around their schedules and they did what they could. But yeah.
So do you have any siblings?
I do. I have 2 younger brothers. They're twins. They're Jake and Jordan. And even though they're my younger brothers, they like tower over me. They're both like 6'3". It's crazy.
Wait, how tall are your parents?
My dad's 5'9". My mom's like 5'4". My mom's my height. So I don't even know how that happened.
Oh, wow. So your brothers are exceptionally tall.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny. Okay, so that's funny that, is there like a big radio culture here or something?
There was, yes.
Okay.
I think it's kind of died down a little bit. It's still a little predominant, more than most cities, right? But definitely huge radio culture.
Because I was talking to Carrie Hall, who,
Carrie.
I was talking to her. Yes, I did record with her yesterday, and I told her I was chatting with you, and she's like, "Oh, she's awesome." And she was mentioning her husband's in radio too. Yeah,
he's kind of a big deal.
He is kind of a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna look him up.
Yes.
What is it? He's on like a major radio.
He is. He's on one of the more like popular stations here in San Antonio. So it's like, I think obviously like top 40.
Yeah.
So he does that. Every time I see her on social media, she's going to different concerts and stuff. I'm like, girl, you go to everything. Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's just funny you brought that up.
Yeah.
Another really weird, interesting fact, not weird, but interesting, is we've done a bunch of these in Texas, and it seems like everybody grew up on a farm and went to a school that had less than 10 people. Is that you or no?
No.
Okay.
I grew up in a suburban neighborhood. I went to a normal school. I went to Catholic school and then public school, so nothing exciting.
Got it.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
Awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about your relationship with your like siblings. So you were the oldest sibling,
Yes.
and then your 2 brothers are how many years younger?
They are 3 years younger than me.
3 years younger than
and
you.
they're both in the industry now.
Really?
So now they're in the business as well. They're on the maintenance side. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they deliberately follow your footsteps?
I think so. I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah.
Love it.
They had to copy me.
What was it like to have a dad in radio?
It was interesting because my dad was always working, always like hustling and doing all the things. It was a lot of fun because our home was always filled with music, and he always had different kinds of music. So it wasn't just like Tejano Conjunto. He'd have like Black Sabbath and then Merle Haggard and then Boys to Men randomly. Like he listened to everything, still does, but listened to all kinds of different music, like George Michael, huge George Michael family. So we listened to a lot of that. But it was a lot of fun, just full of music. And my dad was always very open to different cultures, different genres, all of the things. I think it made us very similar in that regard.
Yeah. I guess when you think about, your childhood and your kind of your teenage years, are there any like pivotal moments or things that you remember that you feel like have helped define who you are?
I think so. I think some of those shows with my dad, there was like one instance where we were raising money for someone's relative who had passed away, and just realizing that every cent that we were really pushing to get went to that family and how big of a difference it made. Watching them come up to my dad and mother crying hysterically, like, thank you so much that we were able to pay for all of these expenses that nobody would ever want to even think about paying. You know what I mean? So I think that was very impactful for me. And I know that that's made me who I am in my career, especially with doing affordable housing and making sure that people have nice, clean places to live, right? So they can grow and just have somewhere nice to come home and live in and grow and live their lives.
So you feel like that's really impacted you to get into multifamily?
For certain. I think my aunt was in multifamily as well. So it's like a very like, once you get into it, you're in it. And so she pulled me into it initially. I was 15 working for her, and I started as a porter, cleaning apartments, there's this huge building on Jackson Keller down the way called Enclave at 1550. It's like 15 stories with 2 huge stairwells. She had me sweep both stairwells, both sets. So working for her that summer, I think I learned how to respect that side of the business, because it is so much work, and that really is like the backbone of our industry. If you don't have a nice stairwell, if you don't have a clean bathroom, you're not going to want to live there, right? So that to me is very important. But that's really how I fell into it, was seeing how my dad treated others and how my family treated others and helped people. And then watching her in the business, that was a no-brainer for me. It's really when I started in it.
What other jobs did you do in high school? It's funny. So I grew up in the Bay Area, but when I was 12, I moved to India.
Oh, wow.
And growing up in India, you don't really get the opportunity to like it's very like you don't work like in the US, you know, as a teenager, you can work a job in the summers or in the evenings or whatever.
Yeah.
In India, that's not really a thing. So I never really got to work until I went to college in the US. But what other job, did you do any other jobs?
I did. I worked at Best Buy randomly for like a couple months. I got Employee of the Month. I really had no business getting that. Like I didn't do anything. I was like listening to CDs and looking at all the music and sorting it. Like I really didn't do anything else. And then I had like a 1 month stint at Betsy Johnson. I don't even know if you know, like a designer store, boutique store,
Okay.
and then missed one day of work and then unfortunately got let go. But it is what it is, right? She did like funky kind of punk out there dresses,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So growing up though, you didn't think that you weren't like, I'm going to be in multifamily, or you were because you were influenced by your aunt?
I mean, when I was growing up, I wasn't like, I'm going to be an apartment manager one day. No, I thought for sure I was going to be like a Gwen Stefani part 2, you know, but I didn't get my pink hair and that's okay. I just fell into it because I got into the industry. I was really good at it and started to meet all the amazing people that I know now and have grown relationships with. And it kind of came to me really naturally.
Yeah. Did you have any, I didn't have any aspirations as a child.
Really?
I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a firefighter, or I'm going to be a scientist, or I'm going to be, I don't remember that.
Right.
It seems like a lot of people do though. A lot of
Right.
people are like, hey, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be something like that. Did you have any of that?
Not really, just the Gwen Stefani thing, really.
So you're really into Gwen
I was
Stefani.
going to be a rock star eventually and, you know, all the things. Did you want to go to school, or what were you thinking about when you were young?
Yeah. College-wise?
Yeah.
I
That was
feel
your
like,
goal?
yeah, I feel like I grew up growing up in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
The Bay Area is so dominated by tech. If you're in a neighborhood where the schooling systems are really competitive,
Yeah.
it becomes so competitive that parents are basically lying to other parents about the extracurriculars kids are doing because it gets so competitive. The parents are lying about it.
Oh my God.
So that's kind of where I grew up there until 12, and then I went to an international school in India. So I feel like the expectation was always that I was going to go to college.
Yes.
And I didn't know whether I wanted to do engineering or business. I like business and I liked engineering as well.
Right.
And I found this major called Industrial and Systems Engineering. And it was like kind of a hybrid between engineering and business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny because I remember being in 12th grade 11th or 12th grade. And I was doing all this research on my major and, you know, getting all these, like checking out all these books from the library and just researting.
All the things.
All the things. And I remember going to my dad, I was like, Dad, I want to be, I found this really cool major. It like combines business and engineering called industrial engineering. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, that's crazy. That's what I did.
Oh my God, without even realizing
Without
it?
even realizing
Oh, wow.
it. So he had done the same major and I was like, wow, that's really weird.
How funny.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like for me, I always knew I was going to go to college.
Yes.
But I did not ever think I was going to start my own company.
Okay.
I never I remember actually thinking the first year after I graduated, or maybe in college, finding it kind of like stupid that people did that because it was so risky.
Really?
I was
Why?
I just felt that, I
Maybe the
was like,
time
why
you
would
grew
you
up?
give up your income? I thought, okay, what I actually thought was, I can start my own business, but I'm not going to give up my like job. Because
Right.
I think the answer is, I grew up like pretty financially insecure.
Okay.
Like money was always an issue.
Yeah.
It was always a hot topic between my family, my parents.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, I was like, I wanted to make sure I was financially secure. I felt like money was like this pillar of safety and stability. So giving up my job and my income stream to like pursue something that is so unknown felt kind of silly. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll work my job, but then I'll start another business on the side while I'm working my job. So at least I have my main stream of income.
Right.
And I can build another stream of income. But then I think one thing led to another. The business that we started got affected by COVID, and we had to pivot, and like we pivoted into building AI tooling for real estate.
Yes.
And it just started working out, and I don't know. I was just like, damn, this is kind of fun to like build my own thing and explore.
Yeah.
And I guess here I am. But it's funny how you look back. That Steve Jobs, like he has that like commencement speech at Stanford where you like look back and you can connect the dots, but looking forward, you can't really see what's on the horizon. You can only connect the dots looking back. Yeah.
Right. Hindsight's 20/20, as they say.
Exactly.
See, all of that led you here just like all of my journey led me here. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, are you interviewing me? No, it's good. You can ask me questions.
Yes.
Yeah, you flipped on me.
I was
like,
curious.
No, it's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was talking to Carrie yesterday, and I was like, I feel like I don't know, a lot of people feel like they can't ask me questions, but it's like totally fine because it's
You're
a
so easy to
conversation.
talk to. Why?
I don't know.
That's silly.
In the podcast, I
gotcha.
think they're like,
It's very formal.
they think it's just a one-sided thing. Cool. Okay, so you wanted to become Gwen Stefani in high school.
Yes.
What
Pink
were you
hair
like
and
in like middle school and high school? Like, what was like the role of school? Were you like a cool kid? Were you not a cool kid?
Oh God, no. I was kind of like, how do I say it? I was kind of out there, kind of different, kind of did my own thing. I kind of floated between all the friend groups. I was not popular per se, but friends with everybody.
Okay.
But not where I was like going out and doing all the things. And then as I got older, you know, I had kind of my two best friends that we, you know, met when we were like 13 and went to, you know, started college together and did
you're
all
still
the
friends
things.
with them right now?
Still now. We're not, you know, we're all moms now
Yeah.
and working. So we got to do that stuff first. And then, but we still check in on each other like nothing. It's kind of like those solid friendships or family members that you have that you can just touch base with at any time. Like that love for each other never goes away. So we have that understanding like, hey, I might go a couple months because I got all the things going on, but I still adore you. But yeah, we were inseparable, always together. So I always had that core trio with me. So
What did you guys connect on?
we really connected on music. We all loved music and just being crazy girls and having fun. Yeah, going to concerts, doing all the fun things. Like we went to Metallica together, and then the very next weekend we wanted to go to Enrique Iglesias. Like we all just liked all the things and wanted to explore all the different music. So they were just always with me for the ride.
I love it. So what happened after high school?
After high school, I went to UTSA for a bit, and I actually went looking for an apartment and got offered a job. They were like, hey, you're cute. Come lease apartments with us. It was a different time. It was the early 2000s, so they could get away with that back then. It was weird. But so did that and then started leasing apartments and then got my first commission check, and I was like, this is crazy. I could totally do this. You know, you're 18 years old and you get like a $5,000 commission check. You're like,
Yeah.
done. I'm never looking back.
Did you also get like free housing or something?
I didn't get free. I got like 50% off. And at the time, I think my apartment was like $700. So I was paying like $350 for a 600 square foot apartment. I didn't have a bed. I had a yoga mat, bless my heart. That's what I slept on because I didn't have any furniture. I had like nothing when I first moved out. I didn't. I was broke. Yeah, I was terrible with money at that age, you know.
So you slept on a yoga mat?
I slept on a yoga mat.
For how long?
At least for about 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And then my aunt came to see me and she was like, oh yeah, no, this isn't going to cut it. Let me help you a little bit. So she helps me get it together and build out a budget. She helped me with furniture and she was like, look, you got to get it together. We built out the budget and started doing things the right way.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy how many people, I've done dozens of these, and I feel like everybody's story almost starts very similar with the leasing thing.
Really?
You're like, kind of like, you know, you're either in college or just graduating high school, and somebody comes up to you and they offer you like a job as a leasing agent, and you're like, oh, you get free housing or 50% off, and I could just like smile and do tours and stuff like that. And
exactly. They're like, come talk to people, and if they close, we'll give you this amount of money. And I'm like, I can do that. No problem.
And then you decided to, so you've been in the industry now for
20 years.
20 years.
20 years since I graduated. And then before that, I had worked for my aunt for about 3 years. So really 23.
23 years.
But 20, you know, legal with the IRS and such.
Yeah. So tell me about what it was like 20 years ago. Multifamily.
It was
and
different.
Renting apartments and all of that. What were the differences?
You know, I think it's no secret that the industry is a little difficult for operators right now. There's a lot more rules and regulations. Back then, you still had fair housing and all of those things, and you still had to treat people with respect, right? But there wasn't as much red tape, and I think that the customer service at that time wasn't as stringent as it is now. Like people were coming to look for an apartment, and you really were just open and friendly with them. It wasn't like a very professional, polished thing is really what I'm getting at. So what didn't have to be as like regimented as it is now, where the team has to follow a script, especially if they're a really high-end building where somebody's spending $5,000 a month, they're expecting a certain level of service. And I think also with the rents not being as high as they are now, there wasn't as much pressure for our on-site teams. It was a little bit more fun, just to be frank, you know? So I think that that's something I try to take into account with my teams now, is I try to recreate that, of course, still following policy and all of the things and the trends with the market, but still trying to make it fun and not as, you know, stringent as it is currently.
What was the technology situation like 20 years ago?
Well, Windows 95, I think.
Windows 95.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Probably 98. Windows 98. We had Yardi and we had one site. It wasn't as like tricked out as it is now with all the colors and all the things. It was old one site that I think people call it now, and then just basic Yardi. We still had Outlook, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I have to get to this email in an hour. It was like, you get to it, you get to it. I think one of my first resident complaints was actually mailed into the office, where we had to like hand it to the manager, and it was like formally written out and signed and everything. So totally different now, instead of just a Google review.
Yeah, and I imagine there was no ILSs? No ILSs?
No, we had the book. Do you know about the book?
No.
Oh, Shiv. Let me tell you about the book.
What is the book?
So the book is where it was for rent book, and you would have to go, like your rep would come, hey, how are you? Let's look at the book. And they would open up the publication of this actual like small, teeny tiny book. Open it up, you look at your ad, make sure your phone number was correct, your address was correct, your website, which was a relatively new hot thing coming up, your website was correct and your photo looked good. And you had to check for all of the misspellings. If there was any issue with that ad, you had to live with it for 30 days.
Until they came again.
Oh, yeah, until they came back to edit it, because it was already in publication and there were like thousands upon thousands of this book out all over the city.
And it would be city by city?
Yes, city by city, the For Rent book.
Okay, so For Rent, okay, cool.
Now it's forrent.com.
Yeah.
But it was a book back then.
Wow, that's wild. And then the other means of advertising obviously were like billboards and walk-ins.
Yes, radio commercials.
Radio commercials.
Those were like a big, if you could do that, you were super bougie, elite, top tier, if you could do that.
Yeah.
And then guerrilla marketing, going out, handing bags to you guys, like if you were in a business and trying to make that personal connection, which I think that's coming back.
You think it is coming back?
For sure.
In what way?
I see a lot of my teams doing that. They're like, oh yeah, we went out and we went guerrilla marketing. Back then we just called it marketing, but now it's like they make it a big deal where they're going to a business and they're handing out brochures and they're handing out goodie bags and all the things.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, it is. I actually agree. I mean, that's kind of why we're doing this like RV thing, right? Because I feel like, especially with AI, you know, being an AI founder of a company, people are just going to get more and more spammed. Like think about it, there's a bunch of these like AI sales tools that are coming out where, you know, you'll be cold emailed and they'll be well researched. And what's going to happen over the next few years is people are just going to be so spammed.
Yeah.
And if you look at even what's happened in the last 2 or 3 years, right, it's radically different. That I think responding to a cold email or even a cold call is just going to be, the chances of somebody actually picking up and responding is so low.
Right.
And I think the only way to differentiate is to actually build relationships with people and be in person, create that kind of non-salesy relationship and allow that to like naturally flourish. And I think we're just seeing that across our business and from other tech companies, other founders I've talked to, is like response rates to a cold email are just super low.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, that's interesting you say that.
Why?
Because that translates across the whole industry. You're so right. You're dead on. Because I'm going to buy from you because of you.
Exactly.
Just like you're going to rent from me, even though I have the same 4 walls as Tony or Carrie Ann or whoever, you're going to rent from me because you're like, you know what? I'm going to go with you, or I'm going to go with Carrie Ann, because we have that relationship. We have that trust, right? So you know that no matter what, I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah, talk to me about that actually a little bit, because I believe the same thing. I believe that, you know, I recently moved into my apartment 6 months ago.
Okay.
And my previous experience was terrible. I found, I was living in San Francisco. I made the wrong decision. I was like, I'm just going to get a really nice apartment, but like, I don't really care about the area.
Oh, no. Oh, shit.
And it was not,
happened?
I was like, I work so much. Why does it really matter? You know, I'll just be in my apartment or at the office. Like,
I'm just sleeping
I just
there.
want a nice, I'm just sleeping there.
Yes.
And it was just totally wrong. I would walk outside and there was neat, you know, I was homeless, and the building was really nice. It was like an 8-unit, like the elevator opened up into the unit and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, this is brilliant. It wasn't super expensive. It wasn't super expensive or anything. But what that made me realize was that my living experience had had such a massive impact on my day-to-day. The community I'm in, the people I'm surrounded with makes such a big difference. So when I moved into my new place 6 months ago,
Yes.
I like ran it like a full sales process. I like scheduled 20 tours. I like did all the tours. I like documented it.
Oh my
I like
God.
made it because I was like, if I'm going to make this decision, which is going to be the most expensive decision I'll make all year, where I'm going to rent, I want to make sure I'm doing it with full information and doing it in a way that makes me choose the best place for what I'm spending. And what I realized was a big part of the experience for me was actually the leasing agent and the tour and the vibe, because people think they make, I say this a lot, but I really believe it's true. People think they make like logical decisions, but oftentimes it's like emotional,
very emotional,
and they might think they're making a logical decision, but really it's how a place or a person made you feel.
Yes.
So what do you think about like the impact that a leasing agent or a regional manager or an on-site team can make to the leasing experience?
Honestly, I love everything you said, because it really ties into what I've learned in the industry and what I've taught my teams. And what I've learned is this is a very intimate industry, right? You made your decision based on emotional, right? So your leasing agent connected with you. She obviously believed in that product, met you where you were, toured with you based on your needs, and did all 20 tours with you, held your hand through every step of that process. So that says a lot about that person. Obviously, they did really well in their job. When you're a leasing agent or a property manager or a regional manager, whoever's touring and leasing someone, sometimes we're meeting people at their lowest possible moment. People are getting a divorce, or their home was foreclosed on, or they're empty nesters. It's a big life change that they're having to move into an apartment. In our industry, I think a lot of us lose sight of the fact where this is such an intimate business. This is where you live, you're building your memories, and you're living your life there. You're a whole person with emotions and a family and a job and a career and this beautiful life. And you chose us, you chose to live with us and trust us with that. That's such an intimate thing, right?
It is.
It's a huge decision. And it's an expensive one, but a very huge decision in a multitude of ways. So I think it's important to remind our industry at large, we come in and set our purse down or sit your bag down, and we're going to get yelled at by a resident. Oh God, what is it now? But we are that person to hold their hand through that. We're that figurehead to get them through that, because obviously this is something that's extremely important to them, and this is their home. It's a big deal.
You probably have some memorable stories.
I do.
From on-site. Do you know Social Media Summit? It's a conference in Napa.
We talked about it briefly.
Oh yeah, we talked about it briefly.
You were telling me about
So we
it.
took the RV there, and we did this. I don't know. Did I tell you this part? We did like a. We actually did like a little after party in the RV, and then we did like something called Confessions of Multifamily, where we like recorded.
I want to hear that.
We asked some crazy questions. Yeah, some crazy questions. We'll hear that offline.
I'm so excited.
And we're gonna like, if we ever release it, we'll remove, like, we'll code the voice, encode the voice or whatever.
Yeah.
But one of the questions was like, what are the craziest resident stories you've heard? Somebody's mentioned that one of the residents had a pet python or something, and they like walked into the room and the python had swallowed her, and she was in. Yeah.
No.
Anyway. Yeah, and there was other crazy ones, but do you have any wild stories or anything like that?
I have a couple wild ones. I think one that comes to mind was I was an assistant manager at the time, getting ready to be a property manager. It was a brand new lease up. At the time, this was maybe about 10, 12 years ago. It was in the Crestabella, La Cantera area. You're familiar with that? Super bougie, super nice, up on top of the hill, beautiful community. There was a gentleman that had rented 2 apartments. One, and this was a split level property. There was one at the top that was like super expensive at that time, $2,200 a month for a 1-bedroom was still a lot now in my opinion. And then another one that was down below, and that one was maybe about $900 a month. Well, he came in one day. He had rented these 2 apartments. We didn't think anything of it because he qualified for both. Not a big deal. Came in one day and he's like, "Come look at my Ferrari." We go out there. His Ferrari keyed to the 10s, horrible, beautiful, bright red Ferrari, keyed, smashed, full Carrie Underwood situation, right? Well, come to find out, I have this one lady that kept standing by the gate every day, and she would have a poster by the bottom gate that said cheater, and she was waiting for him to drive out. He lived in the neighborhood across from us called the Dominion, where like Spurs players and George Strait and all those fancy people live. And he had rented these 2 apartments for his 2 other girlfriends. See, this dude totally got busted. His wife came, wrecked his car, and was like calling him out as a cheater.
Wow.
It's probably one of my crazier stories, but
That's wild.
Yes.
And completely keyed the whole car.
yes, so
That is
sad.
crazy.
Beautiful car. Ruined.
Yeah. What I want to, so for anybody that's listening that is either like a leasing agent or assistant manager and is trying to understand how to kind of accelerate in their career,
Yeah.
I want to understand, starting with like the leasing agent role, just walk me through some of the key learnings that you think like people, what makes a great leasing agent? Maybe that's a better question.
I think what makes a great leasing agent is EQ. Definitely have a high EQ, and you're able to understand how to connect with people and learn what they want and how to meet people where they're at and sell to what their need is. That is key, especially in this business, especially right now in this market, learning what people are actively looking for, because essentially it's all the same stuff. There are some that are going to have far better amenities, and there are going to be some that don't have great amenities, but we all have the same 4 walls, and we're all asking for the same rents right now. So I would say definitely EQ is number 1.
Where do you think of, with all the AI tooling that's coming into place, how do you think that's going to impact the leasing agent role?
I sound like the tinfoil hat wearing friend, I think. There was a TAA summit in like 2018, and I remember they had just rolled out the Google version of, forgive me, I don't know the name. I don't want to embarrass myself.
Gemini?
I think so, yes, where it would answer phone calls.
Okay.
And it would talk to our prospects for us and take their information. And it was just kind of like this blossoming new software.
In 2018.
Yes. And everyone was like, oh, it's never going to take on. And I remember thinking then, I'm like, man, I wonder if that's going to take over a lot of the leasing duties. And leasing is slowly going to turn into just solely touring and customer service. And that's really what it's done. Has just turned into, instead of us taking phone calls and really trying to sell that way, we really don't typically do that anymore, because there's so many different software out there that does that for the team, or even call centers now that do that. I think it's really just strictly customer service for leasing is what their strong suit needs to be now. But yeah, it's interesting to see how it's taken a turn. And now they even do collections. Like they have certain software where it's like calling and texting your residents for you, asking for when are you going to come pay your rent, when that was stuff that we had to do.
Since you're so close to the on-site team and you work closely, where do you feel like, I don't know how much you guys use AI or not, but where do you feel like the opportunities are for more AI to be useful, that you don't think there's any tooling that exists so far?
I hope that it doesn't, because if it does exist, I'm going to be real mad. I'm hoping that if there needs to be something more for like pulling reporting, like whatever your client is looking for, not necessarily like me or the on-site team, but something that the ownership is looking for to give them, because I feel like that takes away a lot from the teams. And then anything maybe more customer service based, like maybe if there was a resident complaint service.
Yeah. Let's talk about the monthly report, the reporting thing. I was talking to somebody about this, and they were telling me that, so as a third-party manager, you have to report to your owners, right?
Yes.
Is that cadence always monthly, or what is that normally?
It depends. Every ownership group or owner has a different personality, so it could be monthly, it could be weekly, it could be daily.
So when you think about reporting, do you think about like kind of an AI, like using AI to help like build that report by taking all the data that exists? Because that who does that job actually right now?
Really, it's our managers, because they're pulling anywhere from 4 to 9 different reports and then compiling it into like let's say it's a weekly report, putting it into a Monday morning report. So they're getting in first thing, compiling all this data and flipping it to ownership before noon. So that way they have all the data for the prior 7 days, Monday to Sunday prior.
Per property,
yes,
by property.
Per property.
And what is that report entail?
Really, it has like your traffic, right now, traffic and leases. How much traffic did we bring in? How much did we close on? Who was qualified? Who wasn't? And why weren't they qualified? Why were they denied? What's your delinquency? Why are these residents outstanding in rent? where are we with the eviction process, if at all, and how much did you collect? How much have we collected? So I think those are the main hot buttons right now, collections and leasing.
And if you were to break down the job of the managers on site, and you were to look at like a typical week or a month, how would you like break down the percentage of time spent in each area?
Oh man, I'd say a lot of their time goes to the residents and the teams and helping them manage resident issues right now, just in the current environment we're in. I'd say that's probably 40% of their time. I'd say another 20 would go to reporting. What does that leave me with? That's
40.
60. So I'd say another, 20 for reporting, 20 for any other random tasks that I'm asking them to do. Like if there's other specific or client one-offs that we need, and then maybe another 10% just spending walking the property on just those basic things that we really need them to get back to, walking the property, spot checking with their team and making sure that the property is beautiful and has a beautiful clean bathroom and all the things.
And when you say 40% of the time being spent on with residents, what does that mean? That means resident issues.
Yes.
That means, so what's an example of that? The resident walks in and they have some sort of issue.
Let's say a resident walks in, they live on the second floor and they're upset because their neighbor is super loud. So now you're basically mitigating whatever that issue is. You're doing conflict resolution because now you have an upstairs neighbor who's like, I'm not even being that loud. Like, I don't understand. And then you have a neighbor that's like, oh my God, they're unbearable. So now they're having to deal with that and try and dissolve that situation, try to get everybody calmed down so it doesn't escalate beyond any further than it needs to. I feel like that's a lot of their time right now.
So can you tell me about, like, if we were to break down then how, on average, how many units are in your guys' properties?
Right. We have anywhere from 2 to 300.
2 to 300. Okay. So let's take 250, right?
Yeah.
You have a 250 unit building. Can you walk me through, like, what is the, like, staffing requirements look like?
Well, I have some great owners, so they've allowed me to add a little bit more for customer service, especially like depending on the age of the building. Some of mine are a little bit older. So on a 200 unit, normally you'd have 2 guys, 250, you'd have maybe 2.5, we say half, but like a part-timer. They've allowed us to have anywhere from 3 to 4 just because that mitigates contracting costs.
3 to 4 full-time.
Right, just on the outside.
Okay, and those are all assistant managers and leasing?
Maintenance guys, 3 and 4 maintenance guys to help with maintaining the buildings and such. And then on the inside, you're looking at 2 to 3 as well. So you have a manager, assistant manager, leasing agent, just to help field calls and collections.
How has that changed over time? Like 20 years ago, what was it like?
20 years ago, I mean, I worked on a 300 unit property and we had 2 leasing agents, an assistant manager and a manager. And then you had like 4 or 5 guys outside. Like I think payroll was just, because it was so much lower back then. Yeah. We had a lot more people on staff.
Okay. Oh, so it has changed.
Yes.
Drastically.
I worked on a 600 unit property when I was leasing and we had 4 leasing agents, 2 assistant managers, a property manager. I mean, that's a crazy huge staff as a manager. Yeah. Managing that. I can't even remember how many maintenance guys we had. We had like a ton. So
so it's getting more and more compressed over time.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on centralization?
Honestly, I haven't really dealt with it too much.
You guys haven't had to deal with it.
No, not here. Not where I've worked. Yeah. No, I don't have too much of a take on that.
Yeah. And so for the regional manager role, what does that look like today at Foresight?
As far as like day-to-day operations? Yeah. Honestly, supporting the teams, which is a no-brainer. You want to make sure that they're supported, checking with them. I like to do pulse checks at the beginning of the week where we have our weekly huddle, talk about what we have going on this week, what's due, what's imperative, what are the goings on or any policy changes. And then, of course, I like to be out and about and go to the properties and visit with the teams and see how they're doing and walk the property and look at any issues that maybe they can't translate over the phone or email. Sometimes you just got to see it for yourself. But really, that's what I like to do. And then I do a lot of stuff with the association with Tony and Carrie Ann. So we do our advocacy work during the week, too.
Yeah, I was talking to Matt Rogers from RPM, and he was telling me that one of the hardest jumps for people in their career is from assistant manager to regional manager. Uh-huh. Why do you think that is?
Oh, man. I'll be honest. I struggled with that. I did. I think because you go from when I was a property manager, I was on site and I was very regimented. I had my schedule for every single day, what I needed, and every single day I had a different schedule. So like Wednesdays was going to be invoices and meet with my team in the morning and again at the end of the day. Then you go to being on site and managing other people's teams. So it's not just this core group of people I'm managing. I'm managing anywhere from 6 to 10 people's groups of things.
So collectively, it's how many people? Like,
I think right now I have maybe 50 or 60
Wow.
people under me total with maintenance included.
yeah.
So, but it's a lot, I think. And then learning to, like I say, I think I've said it a few times, meet people where they're at, right? Because not everybody's going to have the same management style. You and I might manage people completely differently, but I have to learn how to manage you and how to make sure you're successful. So then it's a trickle down effect so that your teams are successful. So I think really what it boils down to is relinquishing that control. From when you're on site, I can control this. When you're not on site anymore, you have to learn how to teach people how to do what you did, how to replicate what you did in whatever manner or whatever style that they prefer. But it's still successful. I mean, there's different ways to do things and still be on top of it.
Did you ever have like imposter syndrome
I did. Pretty bad.
when you went?
Pretty bad. I think so. I tell everyone who becomes a regional, it's so funny. I was just talking to one of my coworkers. I'm like, the first 2 years, you're just going to cry every day. You're going to cry every day because you just feel like, oh my God, there's so much more I could be doing. And it does translate to imposter syndrome. But you have to recognize there's a reason you're in that role. That didn't happen by chance. You had to earn it to get there. You had to work really hard to prove that you deserve to be in that arena. So you shouldn't feel like you don't belong. You just need to show up and work and show them why you're there. And like I said, teach those people. So it took a lot of heartburn. It took a lot of finesse to get here. But I think this year I've kind of hit my stride. I've really felt a lot more comfortable in the role. Certain.
You mentioned that the way I would lead is different than the way you would lead.
Yes.
Is different than the way, like, how would you define your like leadership style or your belief in like leadership?
For sure. I like to lead from the front. I would never ask people to do something I wouldn't do. So I'll go pick up trash, clean a unit. I know a lot of people say that, but I'll do it for certain. Because if I won't do it, why would I ask you to do that? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You can't inspire people. You can't get people engaged if you don't believe in what you're even saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the cool thing about this industry is because it's pretty uncommon to have so many people that are leaders in this industry have done the job of the people they're managing, like the leasing agent job, right? Because so many people in this industry start as a leasing agent or an assistant manager. So what I think is really cool about that is when you're managing people, you've literally done that job.
Right.
You've seen the role and you're able to like empathize with the on-site team because you know what the problems are like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be different from when I was on site, so I try to be cognizant of that, but you're absolutely right. I'm like, look, I've been where you've been. I understand. I know that sometimes people are going to walk in and just want to talk to the manager and bypass you, even though you're saying the same thing they're saying, they still want to talk to the manager. And then they bypass the manager and then they want to talk to the regionals. It's just the same thing, but you're absolutely right. So I think it garners respect from your team. And I think it encourages them to work harder because some people see it like, okay, well, if she can do that, I can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
I can get there. And maybe becoming a regional isn't their path. Maybe it's going into marketing or going into the tech piece of multifamily, but it's a doorway to get them to wherever they need to be.
When you look back on the last few decades of your career, what stands out as some of like the hard moments?
Oh man. That's a tough one, Shiv. Caught me off guard. I need to think about that. I'd say some of the harder moments have been working in affordable housing because a lot of my career was multifamily lease ups and all the things and super expensive. And then shifting from that, becoming a regional manager and working with people who, especially coming out of COVID, 2021, 2022, are struggling to pay, $500 in rent and trying to figure out how to come up with that and facing eviction. And I think that was extremely hard to see how people were having to choose how to go without. But one of the things that my team, they're so amazing at the time, and I still talk to them this day. I have these two, they were property managers when we met, and they ended up collecting and encouraging their team to go for Texas rent relief. So they saved so many people from facing eviction. I think one of them got like $500,000 just to help her residents like stay afloat. It was amazing. So it covered rent, so we didn't have to go into the eviction piece. But I think that was some of the harder, more challenging things I've seen. And then seeing people kind of, a lot of the kind of mental illness that we're seeing, a little bit of a spike in that the last few years has been difficult.
Mental illness on site?
Yeah, I think just seeing that with our residents as far as struggling with the way things are and how expensive things can be. You see a lot of people just going through really difficult times. So there are some decisions that the on-site teams have to make. They have to protect themselves too, especially if someone is having an episode on the property. They have to protect themselves and the team and their residents and try to mitigate that. I think that that's been extremely difficult too.
So it's gotten dangerous?
At times.
What about on the flip side? When you think of the last few decades, like who stands out as like role models or people that have like been mentors?
Oh my gosh, so many people. I've been so blessed to meet so many amazing people in the industry. I would say first and foremost, my aunt Renetta. So she's with Capstone now, but she's been in the industry a really long time. She's taught me so much. She's one of those extremely like level-headed people. She's been president of San Antonio Apartment Association twice. I don't even know how she has the time or energy to do that, but she did it. She's awesome. Tony's a great one too. He's just kind of those like hype men for you. He just pumps you up. He's like, even on my way here, he's like, oh, you're going to do great. Don't worry about it. You're phenomenal. If you need me to talk you off the ledge, just let me know. He's just always super supportive, always super nice. Love him. I would say another mentor I've kind of acquired has been Mark Ross. He's been here in the local industry for a really long time. He's a lot of knowledge. He's done NAA, all the things. So it's just great to have that group of people to lean on as far as getting advice and just being like candid, like saying, hey, I don't understand anything about the politics side. What do I do? What do I say? And just having that honest candor is very much appreciated.
When you think about like your early years in your career, if you were to go back, what would you tell yourself?
I think I'd tell myself not to take things so seriously and to have fun and to know that I deserve to be there. Exactly what we said about the imposter syndrome.
And what would you tell people who are just starting out? Same thing?
Same thing. You deserve to be here. You've worked really hard to get here. And just because your path may not look exactly like mine or anybody else's, that doesn't mean anything. You're going to do great things. Like we all have the ability to impact people in the industry.
And as a closing question,
yes,
when you think about, it's hard. This one is a hard question because if I were to answer it, I would say I don't know. So if you say I don't know, that's totally fine.
Ooh, I'm nervous.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And the question is so like job interviewee, but I think it's a good one because like I think there's two answers. One is like I don't know, and like that life just goes on, and I may be in this industry, I may not. But the reason why I'm asking the question is some people actually have a good answer. Some people are like, hey, I want to be the VP of marketing at this company. I want to be this chief marketing officer. I want to be the CEO. In 10 years, I want to run this property management company. In 10 years, I want to start my own property management company.
Right.
What is your philosophy on all this? Do you just take the days as it goes? Do you plan ahead?
I think I do a mixture of both because I've just grown up in the industry and learned like every day is different. You never quite know what's going to get thrown your way. I think in 5 years, I'll be past president of San Antonio Apartment Association. So I'll be rolling off. But I think what I would like to do is ultimately start my own property management company. I would love to do that. I think that would be just such a cool venture and such a cool, exciting thing to do. I would love to do that.
Why?
I've always wanted to do that. Even like when I was leasing, I just fell in love with it and feel like that's something that I could definitely pursue. And I've met so many wonderful, amazing people that I've worked with that I just think that I would just love to collaborate with them and build something, just kind of a different company, something that maybe I really want it to be. I know a lot of people say this and it's been a buzzword for a long time, is just very employee centric. Like, especially when like in an industry where it's so female driven, I want to have like, paid leave for all moms and dads, like when they have kids, like a considerable amount of time where they can be with their families, like things like that, amazing benefits, all those things you dream of where you just want to take care of your people and it translates into amazing results, right?
What other company values do you feel like if you were to start your own property management company, what other company values would you want?
Oh man, I definitely want it to be customer service driven. I would definitely want that because that's going to make or break you. If your residents don't like you, then
Nothing matters.
no, you're screwed. You're dead in the water. So definitely want to bring that home. And then I want the employees to be happy. That's, I think, my main thing. The employees have to be happy because if you take care of them, they'll take care of everything else for you.
Maddie, thank you. This
Thank
was
you.
this is really fun. I'm glad Tony introduced us, and he was right. This was super smooth and easy, and I appreciate you coming out here. I'm glad that we did this in March when it's not boiling hot.
Yes.
Otherwise, this RV would be way too hot.
It's perfect.
But thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.